Welcome back to my channel, Pocket Change Coins. If you're excited about finding hidden gems in your pocket change, you're in the right place. First, we're going to uncover some of the most valuable and rare US coins that could be worth a fortune. Let's dive in. We're talking about the 1970 D Washington $quarter coin. At first glance, it may look just like any other quarter you've spent on gum or tossed in a parking meter. But this particular coin, minted in Denver in 1970, hides a secret that makes it one of the most coveted and valuable quarters ever released. And yes, we're going to tell you exactly how much it can be worth today, so make sure you stick with us right until the end. Let's start with a little bit of history and context. The Washington Quarter series began in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. Over the years, these quarters have undergone changes in design and metal content. The 1970 version is part of the copper-nickel-clad series that replaced silver coins a few years earlier. By 1970, quarters were no longer made of silver for circulation, but even without the precious metal, certain coins from that year have become incredibly valuable for a different reason altogether. Now, let's talk about the 1970 D mint mark. The D stands for Denver, one of the primary mints responsible for producing circulating coins in the United States. The majority of 1970 D quarters were minted in high volumes, hundreds of millions, to be exact. So you might be wondering, with so many out there, what makes this one so special? Well, it all comes down to a fascinating minting error that collectors dream of finding. There are a few 1970 D Washington quarters that were accidentally struck on a silver Canadian quarter from 1941. That's right, due to a minting mishap, a few of these American quarters were printed on older, already struck foreign coins. This kind of mistake is extremely rare, and it makes those few existing examples incredibly desirable. When you look closely at one of these error coins, under magnification, you can actually see faint remnants of the original Canadian design beneath the surface of the Washington quarter. It's like two coins in one, a ghost image from another country and era hiding beneath the familiar face of America's first president. This kind of error is known as an overstrike, and it's one of the most exciting discoveries a collector can make, but here's where things get really interesting. Condition plays a huge role in the value of any coin. Coins that are worn down, scratched, or tarnished are far less valuable than those in pristine, uncirculated condition. But when you combine near-perfect condition with a rare minting error like this one, the value skyrockets. To date, only a very small number of these error 1970 D quarters have been confirmed. That rarity, combined with the uniqueness of the overstrike, makes this coin the kind of prize that serious collectors will pay handsomely to acquire. Imagine stumbling across this coin in your old change jar, or tucked away in a forgotten drawer. It's a tiny piece of metal, but it carries a big story, and an even bigger price tag. Now, we know you've been waiting for the big reveal. So here it is, one of these rare 1970 D Washington quarter coins, struck over a 1941 Canadian quarter and preserved in exceptional condition, has been valued at an astonishing $45,000. Yes, you heard that right, $45,000 for a single quarter. So the next time you're going through your loose change or visiting a flea market, keep an eye out for that 1970 D quarter. It could be the lucky find that turns pocket change into a life-changing payday. Second rare coin is the 1967 Washington quarter. Now, you might have a few of these in your change jar or tucked away in your collection, but did you know that some of these quarters could be worth far more than their face value? Stick around as we reveal why the 1967 Washington quarter might be worth more than you think, and just how much it could actually fetch in the right condition. To begin, let's talk about the 1967 Washington quarter itself. The Washington quarter has been a staple in American currency since 1932, and it has gone through several design changes over the years. The 1967 Washington quarter was minted during a time of social and political upheaval in the United States, just before the nation entered the late 1960s counterculture revolution. As such, this coin represents an important era in American history. In 1967, millions of Washington quarters were struck at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints. These coins were issued in response to the growing demand for smaller denominations of currency, as they were used extensively in daily transactions. But while the coin itself may seem ordinary, it's the rarity and the condition of the 1967 Washington quarter that can make it highly desirable to collectors. Most of the 1967 Washington quarters you come across are going to be in worn condition. After all, these coins were circulated for decades. As time went on, they were used for everything from paying for a newspaper to purchasing a cup of coffee. But in the world of coin collecting, condition is key. Coins that have been circulated heavily tend to show signs of wear, such as scratches, discoloration, and other imperfections. However, coins that have been well preserved, those that haven't been handled too much, are much rarer, and can command a much higher price, but the condition of the coin isn't the only factor that determines its value. Mint errors can also play a huge role. Mint errors happen during the production process and are relatively rare occurrences that can make a coin even more valuable. One such mint error to look for in the 1967 Washington quarter is the double die error, where the design appears to be double due to a mistake in the die used to strike the coin. These types of coins are highly sought after by collectors, and they can be worth thousands of dollars more than a regular, unflawed coin. Another error to keep an eye out for is the off-center strike. This occurs when a coin is not perfectly aligned during the minting process, resulting in the design being stamped off-center. These errors are uncommon and can make the coin much more valuable, especially if the misalignment is noticeable and dramatic. Now, you might be wondering, how much can a 1967 Washington quarter actually be worth? Well, for most coins, the value depends largely on the condition and any mint errors present. A well-preserved, uncirculated 1967 Washington quarter could be worth significantly more than its face value of 25 cents. But it doesn't stop there. If your coin happens to have a minting error, it could be worth much more. Here's the exciting part: if you're lucky enough to have an uncirculated 1967 Washington quarter in excellent condition, or one that has a rare minting error like a double die or an off-center strike, you could be holding a coin worth $130,000. Yes, you read that right, $130,000 for a single Washington quarter. Now, imagine the thrill of discovering that one of these coins has slipped through your fingers, and it turns out to be worth an incredible amount of money. It's the type of discovery that can completely change your perspective on coin collecting and might even turn you into a serious collector if you weren't one already. To give you some context, a 1967 Washington quarter in good condition might only be worth a few dollars. But when a coin is uncirculated, mint error-free, or has rare features like a double die, the value skyrockets. With collectors always on the lookout for coins in mint condition or with notable errors, the 1967 Washington quarter has definitely become a hot item in the market for those seeking rare treasures. So, what should you do if you think you have a 1967 Washington quarter that might be worth a lot more than just 25 cents? First, take a close look at the coin. Inspect the condition. It should have minimal wear and show little to no signs of circulation. Look for any errors in the minting process, such as the double die or off-center strikes we've talked about. If you spot something unusual, it's a good idea to have the coin professionally graded by a certified numismatic organization to determine its true value. In conclusion, the 1967 Washington quarter is far more than just another coin from the past. While it may seem like a simple piece of history at first glance, this quarter has the potential to be worth a lot more than its face value. Whether you're a seasoned collector or just starting out, finding a well-preserved 1967 Washington quarter, especially one with a mint error, could be a jackpot for your collection. And remember, if you're lucky enough to have a coin in excellent condition or with a rare mint error, your 1967 Washington quarter could very well be worth $130,000. Third expensive coin, we're talking about the 1973 Washington quarter, a coin that, on the surface, might seem pretty ordinary, but in the right condition or with the right features, could be worth an astonishing amount of money. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll know just how much this coin could fetch, and why it might be worth looking through your coin jar or collection. Now, let's rewind a little and set the stage for the 1973 Washington quarter. The Washington quarter, which has been in circulation since 1932, is one of the most recognizable coins in U.S. history. By the early 1970s, the country had been through decades of social and political upheaval, from the Great Depression to World War II and the Civil Rights Movement. The Washington Quarter, though, remained a constant symbol of American unity and pride, featuring George Washington's portrait on the obverse and an eagle on the reverse. In 1973, millions of these quarters were minted at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints. These coins were used for everyday transactions, from buying a loaf of bread to paying for a bus ride. While the 1973 Washington Quarter was produced in large quantities, the one thing that sets it apart from many other coins is its rarity in pristine, uncirculated condition. After all, most of the quarters that were released into circulation have gone through years of use and wear, which means finding one in mint condition is a rare occurrence. But what makes the 1973 Washington Quarter so interesting and potentially valuable? Well, it all comes down to condition and error coins. As we know, coins that have been heavily circulated can show significant wear. They might have scratches, discoloration, and other marks from years of handling. However, coins that have been preserved in mint state, or those that show minimal wear, are much harder to come by, which makes them more desirable to collectors. In addition to being in pristine condition, certain mint errors can make a coin even more valuable. Mint errors happen during the production process when something goes wrong at the minting press. These errors are typically one of a kind and can make a coin highly sought after by collectors. For the 1973 Washington Quarter, some of the most notable errors that can increase its value include the double die error and the off-center strike. A double die error occurs when the die used to strike the coin shifts slightly, causing some of the design details, such as the lettering or date, to appear doubled. This type of error is incredibly rare, and collectors love to find these types of coins, as they add a unique quality to their collection. Another error to look out for is an off-center strike. This happens when the coin is not properly aligned during the minting process, causing part of the design to be off-center. Off-center strikes are often more noticeable, and depending on how dramatic the error is, they can be worth a significant amount of money. Now, let's get down to the burning question: just how much is the 1973 Washington Quarter worth? The value of any coin depends on several factors, including its condition, rarity, and whether it has any mint errors. Most of the 1973 Washington Quarters in circulation are not going to fetch much more than their face value of 25 cents, but that's not the case for every single coin. If you happen to have an uncirculated 1973 Washington Quarter or one with a mint error, the price starts to go up significantly. In fact, a coin in top-notch condition, or one with a significant mint error, could be worth much more than you might expect. For example, a mint state 1973 Washington Quarter, or one with a rare double die error or an off-center strike, can be worth $145,000, yes, you read that right. $145,000 for a single quarter. Imagine stumbling upon a coin worth that much just by checking your collection or coin jar. It's the kind of discovery that can make any coin collector's day, and it highlights why so many collectors are so passionate about finding rare and valuable coins. Even without the mint errors, a well-preserved 1973 Washington Quarter in uncirculated condition could still fetch a decent price. But when you factor in rarity and error coins, the value of the 1973 Washington Quarter can skyrocket to impressive amounts. So, what should you do if you think you found a valuable 1973 Washington Quarter? The first thing to do is take a closer look at the condition of the coin. If it looks like it has been heavily circulated, it's probably worth close to its face value. However, if it looks like it's been carefully stored and shows little to no signs of wear, you might want to have it professionally graded by a coin expert to determine its value. Also, inspect the coin for any potential mint errors. Check the lettering, the date, and the overall alignment of the design. If you notice any inconsistencies or doubled designs, it could be worth getting it looked at by a professional to see if it's a double die or another type of error coin. In conclusion, while the 1973 Washington Quarter may appear to be just another quarter to the casual observer, it holds the potential to be a much more valuable piece of history. The combination of its historical significance, the rarity of well-preserved examples, and the potential for mint errors make this coin highly sought after by collectors. So, next time you're going through your spare change or flipping through your coin collection, keep an eye out for the 1973 Washington Quarter. it might just be worth $145,000. Especially, we're talking about the 1979 Washington quarter, a coin that may seem like just another piece of pocket change, but in reality, could be worth far more than you think. If you have one of these quarters tucked away in your collection, you may just be sitting on a hidden gem. Let's take a journey back in time to 1979. The world was a much different place. The Cold War was ongoing, the 1970s energy crisis was affecting global economies, and the United States was dealing with the aftermath of the Vietnam War. During this time, the U.S. Mint continued to produce the familiar Washington quarter, which had been in circulation since 1932, featuring George Washington on the obverse and an eagle on the reverse. Now, despite the fact that millions of 1979 Washington quarters were minted at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, this coin is often overlooked by collectors. The key here is that condition is everything. The value of a coin is largely determined by how well it has been preserved over the years, and this is where the story gets interesting. Unlike other coins that were heavily circulated, some of these 1979 quarters remained in pristine, uncirculated condition. These near-perfect coins are exactly what collectors are looking for when they hunt for rare and valuable pieces. You might be wondering, what makes the 1979 Washington quarter so special? Well, it's all about its rarity in pristine condition, its potential for mint errors, and the historical significance of the year it was minted. Coins that are found in mint state, with no signs of wear or damage, are rare, and therefore, highly valuable. But it doesn't stop there. Some of these quarters were struck with errors during the minting process, which makes them even more sought after by collectors. A coin with a unique minting flaw could be worth far more than the average quarter, and this is where the real value lies. One of the most common errors found in 1979 Washington quarters is the double die error. This occurs when the coin is struck twice by the die, which results in a doubling effect on the design. You'll notice that the lettering and the date appear more than once, which is a clear indication that the coin is a double die variety. These error coins are rare and highly desirable to collectors because they are one-of-a-kind pieces that add uniqueness to any collection. Another potential error to look out for is an off-center strike. This happens when the coin is not properly aligned during the minting process, which causes part of the design to be off-center. The more dramatic the off-center strike, the more valuable the coin becomes. Some collectors seek out these types of errors because they are eye-catching and stand out from the rest of the coins in circulation. It's important to note that finding a mint state 1979 Washington quarter with these types of errors can be quite difficult. Most of the 1979 quarters in circulation are worn down and damaged from years of use. However, if you happen to find one in pristine, uncirculated condition or with a noticeable error, you could be holding on to a coin worth significantly more than face value. Now, let's get to the exciting part, the value. So, just how much could your 1979 Washington quarter be worth? If you happen to have a perfectly preserved uncirculated 1979 quarter or one with an error such as the double die or off-center strike, you could be looking at a coin that's worth far more than you might expect. In fact, a coin in excellent condition, or with a rare minting error, could easily be worth $120,000, yes, that's right, $120,000 for a single 1979 Washington quarter. It's amazing to think that such a simple piece of currency, which many of us overlook on a daily basis, could hold so much value. Whether it's the rarity of the condition, the unique mint errors, or simply the historical significance of the coin, the 1979 Washington quarter can be a highly valuable find. If you think you might have one of these valuable coins, it's a good idea to have it professionally graded. A certified coin grader will assess the condition of the coin, noting whether it's uncirculated, if there are any mint errors, and what kind of value it could have in the market. Keep in mind, the better the grade and the rarer the error, the higher the value. So, the next time you're going through your coin collection or sorting through your change, take a close look at any 1979 Washington quarters you might find. If it's in mint condition or has an error, you could be holding onto a treasure worth $120,000. Next coin, we're diving into the world of the 1988 D Washington quarter. Now, you might be thinking, what makes a 1988 quarter special? After all, it's just a regular coin you might find in your pocket or a roll of change. But, stick with us, because this seemingly ordinary quarter might just surprise you. Let's first rewind to 1988. The world was a very different place. The Berlin Wall was still standing, the first George Bush was in the White House, and the United States was transitioning into a new economic era. At that time, the U.S. Mint was continuing its tradition of producing the Washington quarter as part of the country's ongoing circulation of these iconic coins. The Washington quarter had been in production since 1932, and in 1988, it was still a key piece of U.S. currency. But while most of these quarters were meant for everyday transactions, some of them would eventually become valuable collector's items. The 1988 D Washington quarter, specifically, was minted in Denver and distributed across the country, just like its counterparts from the other minting facilities. At first glance, it may seem like any other quarter. It has the traditional design featuring George Washington on the obverse, facing left, and an eagle on the reverse. But here's where things get interesting. The true value of a coin often lies in its condition, and the 1988 D Washington quarter is no exception. While millions of these coins were produced, the ones that were well preserved and remain in mint condition are rare. The majority of these quarters were heavily circulated, and over time, they experienced wear and tear from daily transactions. Coins that have been handled frequently or stored improperly lose their shine and clarity. This means that finding one of these quarters in pristine, uncirculated condition is like finding a diamond in the rough. And it's these coins that are the ones that could fetch an impressive amount on the market. Now, let's talk about why error coins also play a role in the value of the 1988 D Washington quarter. As with any year's mintage, some coins were struck with flaws during the minting process. These mint errors can make a coin far more valuable to collectors. For example, errors such as off-center strikes, double dies, or die cracks can turn a regular quarter into something highly coveted. A quarter with a noticeable minting error could easily fetch a much higher price than its face value, making it worth keeping an eye out for these rare finds. So, what makes the 1988 D Washington quarter so special? It's all about rarity and condition. If you find one that's in exceptional condition, free of scratches, dings, or discoloration, it becomes a highly collectible item. Similarly, a 1988 D Washington quarter with a minting error can also be worth far more than you'd expect. Coins that are difficult to find in perfect condition, or those with unique imperfections, are highly sought after by collectors, driving up the value. But you're probably wondering, just how much is a 1988 D Washington quarter worth? If you have a quarter in mint state or one that has an error, your coin could be worth far more than you ever imagined. A 1988 D Washington quarter in perfect, uncirculated condition, or with a rare minting flaw, can command a price of $99,000. Yes, you heard that right, $99,000 for a single 1988 D Washington quarter. It's incredible to think that a coin that most people would dismiss as just another part of their change could hold so much value. Whether it's the rarity of the coin in mint condition, the presence of a rare minting error, or the historical significance of the year, this coin has the potential to make you a fortune if you're lucky enough to find one in the right condition. That if you think you might have a 1988 D Washington quarter that could be worth a small fortune, it's a good idea to have it graded by a professional. Certified coin graders can assess the condition of your coin, determine if it has any minting errors, and provide an accurate value based on its rarity and condition. The higher the grade, the higher the value, so it's worth investing in a professional assessment if you believe you have a valuable coin. So, the next time you're going through your coins, take a moment to check your 1988 D Washington quarters. You may have a quarter worth $99,000 just sitting in your collection. Last unique coin, we're talking about the 1996 P Washington quarter, a coin that might be sitting in your change jar or tucked away in your collection. But what if I told you this quarter could be worth far more than its face value? Stick around as we uncover the value and potential of the 1996 P Washington quarter. Let's take a step back to 1996. The United States was in the midst of the 90s, a time of significant change and technological advancements. The world was embracing the rise of the internet, and the economy was in the midst of a boom. During this period, the U.S. Mint was still producing the well-known Washington quarter, which has been a staple of U.S. currency since 1932. These quarters were designed to honor George Washington, the first President of the United States, and have been a prominent part of American coins for decades. However, in 1996, something unique happened. While millions of 1996 P. Washington quarters were produced at the Philadelphia Mint, not all of them were intended for regular circulation. Some were set aside, while others were sent out into the world to be spent as regular currency. Over time, the demand for quarters increased, and the coins began to show up everywhere, from cash registers to vending machines, all the way down to your pocket. But just like with any coin, the key to its value is its condition, and that's where the 1996 P. Washington quarter starts to stand out. Most of these quarters were heavily circulated, showing signs of wear and tear over the years. But as with any coin, the real value lies in the quality and condition of the piece. If you happen to find a 1996 P. Washington quarter in mint condition, or one that has been preserved in near-perfect form, you may have a hidden treasure on your hands. Coins that are in uncirculated condition, meaning they have not been used in regular transactions, are much rarer and far more valuable than those that show signs of wear, but it's not just about mint condition. Some coins, like the 1996 P. Washington quarter, can carry additional value due to rare minting errors. Errors such as double dies, off-center strikes, and die cracks can make a coin even more valuable. These errors are often the result of issues during the minting process, and they give the coin a unique characteristic that collectors find highly desirable. For example, a quarter with a double die would show a slight doubling in the design of the date or other features. This makes the coin stand out and increases its rarity and value in the eyes of collectors. Another thing to keep in mind is that while the 1996 P. Washington quarter is not an exceptionally rare coin in general, finding one in mint state or with a mint error is what gives it its true value. Many coins from this era were made in high numbers, but those that have survived in pristine condition are the ones that command higher prices. Now, you're probably wondering just how much a 1996 P. Washington quarter could be worth. If you've got a mint condition coin or one with a rare mint error, you could be holding onto a coin worth a significant amount of money. It might surprise you to know that a 1996 P. Washington quarter in excellent condition, or with a rare minting error, could be valued at $77,000, yes, that's right, $77,000 for a single 1996 P. Washington quarter. It's amazing to think that a coin, which many people might overlook or toss aside as just another piece of pocket change, could actually be worth so much. The rarity of the coin in perfect condition, or with a unique mint error, is what drives its value up. This is a perfect example of how coins that may seem ordinary at first glance can hold tremendous worth if you know what to look for. So, what should you do if you think you found a 1996 P. Washington quarter that could be valuable? First, take a close look at its condition. If it's well preserved and looks like it has never been used in transactions, it's likely to be more valuable than one that's been worn down. Next, check for any noticeable minting errors. Look for signs of doubling or off-center strikes, as these errors could significantly increase the value of your coin. If you find one of these rare variants, it's a good idea to get it graded by a professional coin grader. Certified coin graders will examine the coin in detail and provide an accurate assessment of its value based on its condition and rarity. If you happen to have a 1996 P. Washington quarter that fits these criteria, you could be looking at a substantial payoff. Whether it's the rarity of the mint state condition or the uniqueness of a minting error, this coin is a true example of how even the most seemingly common pieces of currency can hold tremendous value. In the end, you never know what treasures you might find when you start sorting through your coins. The 1996 P. Washington quarter may not have seemed like anything special when it was minted, but in the right condition, it could make you a lot of money. If you have one in pristine condition or with a minting error, you could be looking at a coin worth $77,000. Thanks for watching, and be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on future discoveries of rare and valuable coins. You never know what hidden gems are waiting for you in your coin collection. Happy hunting, and good luck!